Hey y'all, this is Chad here with Chad Sports Talk, where we take a dive into the world of sports. This is kind of like a part three continuation saga of the Conference USA expansion and the domino effects created by Texas and Oklahoma. It's all their fault. In case you're all not aware, and I'm sure most of you are, three more programs have now indicated their desire to leave Conference USA. Started with Southern Miss earlier this week. Then on Dominion, and now Marshall has stated they will also leave and join the Sun Belt. Both Southern Miss and Old Dominion stated July 1st of 2023 they will officially be members of the Sun Belt Conference. Marshall has not given a date at this time, just their desire and intent to leave. This part is still waiting for the full confirmation from the Sun Belt exactly when it's going to happen. Also, not to mention, SES powerhouse James Madison has begun the processes of letting their constituents know of their desires to go ahead and move up the program FBS and Intimate joining in the Sun Belt to create a 14-member Sun Belt conference and 16-member in basketball, which is a very good regional footprint. So you go Sun Belt didn't actually now stretch into West Virginia and Virginia. If I bring in Mississippi into the conference and switch from, there Virginia and West Virginia all the way down to San Marcos, Texas. It's a nice big, footprint across, the southern U.S. Now that leaves Conference USA with 5 members remaining. FIU, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, Louisiana Tech, and UTEP. 4 of those were once upon a time a member of the Sun Belt in some form or fashion. Yes, Louisiana Tech was a member of Sun Belt before the football launched. And then, like so, Louisiana, FIU, Western Kentucky, and Middle Tennessee were all plucked out of conference, out of the Sun Belt to Conference USA on the last major conference realignment. And so the Sun Belt wants nothing to do with these former ex-members. So they're not taking back their ex-girlfriends. And there's these poor old UTEP out there in El Paso, all by them lonesome. Now, Conference USA is still under the impression that they can save their conference and that there's members in the FCS and FBS that are willing to go to Conference USA. Really? Let's look at who is available, and let's go ahead and knock off 2 of these right away. UMass and Army. Neither one of these 2 will join because they're going to be football only, and Conference USA is going to want full members to stay alive because they're down to 5. They need 6 to stay alive as a Division I conference. Army's already done Conference USA. I don't think they're going to do it again. UMass brings them nothing except even a bigger travel cost. So then you got, Massachusetts and El Paso. Not to mention, then on the way down to outside of Miami, a WTF. No, it makes no sense for that to happen. I understand a conference would help UMass stability-wise and give them, conference foes. Something they desperately need, and won't. But it's not going to work. One, I guess, has been seriously considering this, and is in conversation with Conference USA, is New Mexico State. Now, New Mexico State could be a good fit because it's a rival for UTEP, makes UTEP happy, so now they have a partner. And New Mexico State has stated that they want to make sure all their sports are in the same conference that has FBS football. WAC's not there yet. The WAC's goal is to get to the FBS level probably about 2030, give or take. But I don't think New Mexico State can be independent much longer. They have been. It's just not been a good sign for them. I found like last time they went to the bowl was back in 2017, and that was like the first time like almost forever. And they barely got in as a 6-6 school. Um, but it's just for their recent history, they helped found the Sun Belt Football Conference. Left that, went to the WAC until its demise as an FBS level conference. Went back to the Sun Belt, and the Sun Belt kicked them out because them and Idaho were too far out of their reach, and they didn't want them anymore. They didn't really kick them out, but they didn't renew their contract for them to stay. So if they go conference A, I think it'll be a full thing. But New Mexico State doesn't bring anything to the table. That doesn't turn heads. That's when people want to watch Conference USA football. It's like, oh hey, tonight Conference USA, New Mexico State will take on FIU. Yay! It's not going to excite anyone, except for maybe the fan bases. But nationally, it's just conference. It's not going to look good for them. Another one that's been mentioned is Liberty, which of course they've been right there and they've been doing quite well. So there'd definitely be one that would help elevate Conference USA to get Liberty to join. But if they do join, who's going to be their partner? Because Marshall's out. Or Marshall's out the door. Their bags are packed and they're ready. They're just waiting for the cab to show up. Then you have FIU, which is all the way down there. I think Fort Lauderdale. So it's not going to really be a nice travel partner. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, that's too far away as well. So they're kind of an outskirts. They're like that, a hand reaching out. If you think of FIU and UTEP's, the 2 feet. Liberty would be, the matching hand for FIU feet. So it's not going to be advantageous for Liberty to move its operations to Conference USA. They could prove me wrong and do it anyways, and just run rampant. Maybe an addition of Liberty may entice other programs to make the jump. And I think if that's the case, I think Conference USA really needs to go in there full throttle for Liberty. But I don't think they will. And then another one's UConn. UConn's been on the radar, but they're pretty much exploratory conversations, as UConn's put it, because if they join any conference, it's football only. Period. Dot in the story. Because they want all their basketball in the Big East. That's where they think they belong, in the Big East basketball. And they're not changing that whatsoever. But they believe their football program is FBS level. Okay. Ever since, the breakup of the American, or when they got removed from the American, their program's gone downhill. So they need a conference to kind of help resurrect them and kind of stabilize them. I think for like UConn and Army, I think they're better suited as football only members for like the MAC, to help the MAC out, give them a little extra, little extra punch. But yeah, I don't see UConn, UMass, Army moving. Liberty, it's a slim chance for me. I think New Mexico State, I give it a B for sure. Of them, going. I think it's a very high probability, about 75% that, 75-80% that they probably will make a full dive into Conference USA. Liberty, it's more of, 60%, they can go either way. But I know another one that keeps getting floating around and keeps getting mentioned, especially in boards everywhere and quite a few articles, is going after some FCS Texas schools, mainly Sam Houston State, Stephen F. Austin, and Tarleton State. Now, if they remember these 3 programs, 2 of them just left the Southland to join the WAC, and the other one's just moving up from D2 and joined the WAC. If they leave, the WAC will not be able to support football, so they're not going to do it. They just move to the WAC. They have no financial capabilities to make another move at this time. Maybe down the road, the Conference USA stays alive. Maybe they can get like Sam Houston State, Stephen F. Austin to make the move. Maybe 4 years time frame, 5 years time frame. Maybe that can happen then. Tarleton State is in the middle of a transition from D2. They haven't completed their requirements for FCS level, and you try to throw them at FBS already? Not going to happen. That's really bold thinking. If Tarleton, if that's their desire, that's really bold, and we'll see how that works, Cotton. But at this time frame, none of those three, none of the ones that went into the new WAC or the new ASUN is making any jump into the Conference USA. Let's just go ahead and I'm just going to squash that right here with me. I could be proven wrong, but I don't think none of those are leaving those two new conferences anytime soon. So who does that leave out there? Another name floated out there is Missouri State. Now, Missouri State out there in Springfield, Missouri, pretty much the southwestern part of the state. Makes sense. I mean, it's closer to Louisiana Tech. I mean, you still got Arkansas between them, but still. You got Kentucky and Tennessee right there, so it kind of fits that mid-south region for them. So it kind of works in that aspect. But Missouri State says no one's approached them, so I think right now that's just the rumor mills and fan fantasy to get Missouri State moved up, and I think they could because Missouri Valley Football Conference and the Missouri Valley Conference itself is kind of uneven, and them leaving will help even out both of those entities. So I don't think it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And with that being said, I think Missouri State could make the move. I would like to see that. But for stability wise, but Missouri State doesn't turn any heads like Sam Houston State would or James Madison would. I mean, nothing against Missouri State. They're a very decent football team, so we'll see how it happens. I know one's kind of been floating out there. I know one that has been courted by the Sun Belt a few times in their history of expanding is Chattanooga. Now, I don't know if the Mocs will make the jump to Conference USA because of where they're at, but they do fit the geography of what's left of the Conference USA. Gives Middle Tennessee an in-state rival. A little bit closer to FIU than any other school, but not really. I mean, that's basically about all you can really say about Chattanooga. I mean, but this is a good quality program that could help out. But why would they leave SoCon? Why would they leave the Southern to join Conference USA? Yeah, you might get a little bit more money with Conference USA because of them being the college football playoff money, the TV contracts. You can get about $500,000 for the school, which is probably a whole lot more what they get at the FCS level. Let's get the money from the TV deal from the college football playoff, so that's more money. I mean, yeah, the money could be used to help, better the facilities for the athletes and more money for the other athletic programs. So I do see the end result for that. But why leave a conference that you're one of the top dogs and go to another conference and not be able to do much of anything for a couple of years because you're still in transition? I know, that's just my 2 cents. I mean, can FCS programs make the move up? Of course they can. I mean, it's evident. I mean, they've been done that for a lot of times where they made the jump up and been a true pain in the rear ends for a lot of schools, App State. And so I'm not going to completely dog these programs from making the move up and making more money. But I just don't see the viability of Conference USA at this present point in time. This was a conference that was a proud 14-member monstrosity that stretched from El Paso to Huntington, West Virginia, to Norfolk, Virginia, down the outside of Miami, Florida. It was proud to be this Conference USA, literally across the U.S. And how it evolved from a conference of metro-based universities. You know, I think this used to be home at Cincinnati, Louisville, Memphis. They're all gone, and now they're those that are universities that kind of, outside of some metro areas, like, Middle Tennessee outside Nashville, FIU and FIU outside of Miami. I mean, then you still have the other major sites of, San Antonio and Houston and Birmingham. Just to find that all of these schools leave. I mean, well, 6 go to the American and another 3 go to the Sun Belt. There's not much left. In the pecking order, this Conference USA is going to be below the MAC. It's going to be below the Independents. I mean, this is how bad this conference is going to be. But let me get back on track here with the FCS program. So, like I said, Missouri State, sure. Chattanooga, sure. What are you going to do with FIU? Who are you going to bring in to help them out? There's no one in Florida that I think in the FCS level could make the move up, because you have Stetson, who's a Pioneer Football League, which means they don't offer scholarships for football. Bethune Cookman and Florida A&M, HBCUs, universities that just not too long ago went to the SWAC. Now, I think Florida A&M could be a very good choice, because they almost went up to the FBS level and then pulled back in the last minute. So I can actually see Florida A&M make the jump. That would be really good. That would also give FIU someone close to at least someone in their state. So then we go with anything in Georgia right now that's not attached to the ASUN, and it's what Mercer. I don't know, maybe Furman, Sanford, Elon. I think all those are in the Carolinas. Wilford. If you go up north, maybe Delaware, Stony Brook. I mean, there's Youngstown State, maybe. Get the Conference USA back in Ohio, Illinois State. I've always wanted to see Illinois State make the move up. North Dakota State. I mean, that would turn some heads if they get North Dakota State to join, and then as well as the other Dakotas as well. Montana would be another good one, but Montana will not go without Montana State, and then those two would not go to the Conference USA. It's just way too much travel. Same thing with Eastern Washington, which would be another good one. I don't know. I'm ranting and raving with this one, and just trying to think of FCS teams that will make a viable additions that are not making moves to new conferences. I think a lot of people are not. I don't know, they're not aware of that, but they just officially started those conferences this year. So I don't see them leaving anytime soon. Like I said, if Sam Houston State leaves, I think they'll take the WAC below their requirements. All right, so if Sam Houston State does go, say Sam Houston State does go, that would not necessarily kill the WAC football, because they still have Southern Utah. They'll still have Southern Utah. We'll have Lamar, Stephen F. Austin, ACU, Tarleton State, Utah Tech, aka Dixie State, and then possibly Rio Grande Valley, UT Rio Grande Valley. So they give them 7. So Sam Houston State can go. Maybe Stephen F. Austin. But like I said, these two just went into the WAC. I don't think they're going to go leave the WAC anytime soon, especially since the WAC, like I said, it has plans to make the move up to the FBS by 2030. And I think they're going to stick with them. Like I said, Tarleton's not going to make the move. They're still in the middle of a D2 transition. They're in no position to make the move to FBS. Any of the ASUN schools, so like Kennesaw State, Jacksonville State, Eastern Kentucky, Central Arkansas, North Alabama, and Austin Peay, there's 6 full members. And they're going to launch an ASUN together. So none of those are moving. So you just kind of take that dream and put that out there. I've not seen anything anywhere floating around where the ASUN plans on making the jump up either. So for this point in time, I think those schools will stay out unless somebody else joins the ASUN. Then maybe one could possibly leave. But like I said, they just started it. So don't expect these schools to make the jump. But, schools like Missouri State, possibly. Chattanooga, possibly. But beyond that, maybe McNeese State could possibly. Guess I think saw that floating out there. But like I said, the Southland's trying to recover from their exodus of Texas schools. So I think they want to keep close together, close to heart. And I think McNeese State likes playing with their Louisiana brothers of Nichols and Northwestern State, and and the likes of that. So I don't see McNeese State leaving either. There's no one like in Florida and Georgia that would make any sense for them to really make the move. So I think Conference USA is going to be struggling to remain relevant and especially be considered a legit conference moving forward. Well, that's my soapbox. And if I ruffle a few feathers, that's not my intention, but I have to, kind of say my 2 cents and with this. But like I said, this is crazy times. Conference realignment always creates strange bedfellows, strange scenarios, things you never think of. So it's just one of those things that, it could change on a dime and could be completely different. But, hey, just let me know what you think. Just leave a comment. Be gentle. And if I find out anything else, I'll make sure you get my face in front of this camera. I'll let you know, provide my 2 cents, how much that's worth, and I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.